Hola Ramiro,
Hola,
bienvenido.
buenas tardes.
Welcome to Hablamos Spanglish. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I think I'm totally excited to be here with you here in Orlando, and thank you for the invitation.
Of course. So, when we were planning to have you here, it was like, okay, Ramiro is gonna be in town these dates in August and then in September for the conference. And I really wanted to make this happen, have you in person. I have gotten to know you over the last year. We met in Phoenix at
We
the
did.
at
We
the
met in Phoenix at
conference
our conference a year ago.
a year ago, exactly.
And then I saw you again, I think in Santa Fe, when you were there as a graduate of our first Blue Wave cohort.
Correct.
So felicidades.
Gracias. No, it has meant I joined as a member of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber.
Thank you.
Last year, and let me tell you, I didn't know what to expect, and it's been an incredible experience. And I already know your staff, and they are so, amazing. Amazing staff, and they really care about what they do for the U.S. Hispanic business community. So I'm very honored and humbled to have you.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, we have a team that really cares about our mission, and that's to help Latino-owned businesses like you, truly help them in an authentic way.
Yes.
It's not just join and forget about the needs of our members. We really want to help people create wealth, create jobs, be successful, and it's a carefully selected staff. Also, some of them have worked with me before in my previous role, but it takes a special person to work at a Cámara de Comercio.
Yes, it does.
And they need to really know that every day's different and it's never the same. But ultimately, our goal is to support this wonderful free enterprise system that you're a part of.
Yeah, and when you said that, I don't know if you know this, but when I was in college, I was an intern at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in Orlando.
I didn't know that.
So that's when my story starts here with the Hispanic Chamber. And I always said that, well, my friends were, partying. I was doing networking at the age of 18 when I started. So, but
good for you.
I can tell you something that, for me to be able to be part of this amazing community of the Hispanic business community here in the U.S., it keeps growing every year, and we're making a huge impact.
We are.
Not only by providing solutions, but in the economic aspect. So it's many different things, and I thank you for supporting that, because you are supporting dreams also, right?
Thank you.
By doing what you do. And for me, being at the conference last year, I went to DC also for the legislative.
Oh, the legislative summit. Oh,
yes,
wow, that's right.
And for me, that was like living the DC life. We went to like congressman offices, and we did something like on the legislative day.
The legislative day, the advocacy day, I think.
It was incredible because
Hill Day. That's what it is.
That's what it is. And I went with Prospera, with Augustus and and Gaby Ortigoni, and so we did so many wonderful things, and I learned so much, and also it made me think about what can I do, to support and be an activist, and to join forces and
well, help. You're doing all the right things. I mean, you're young, you have good experience. You started networking at a young age when most kids were your same age doing partying and doing other stuff. And there's nothing wrong with having a good time, but you need to plan your future at the same time when you're young. And the beauty of working in the field that you're in is that you're developing relationships. Every connection you make is a potential opportunity for business. your reputation precedes you. So word of mouth really is what helps your business grow. It's not a fancy ad or a billboard. And people can still do that, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really, Ana Carolina Salazar and what people know about you and think about you, and then their respect for the work that you do, the excellence that you bring, really is what sets you apart. And that's why the ones that don't get involved, they don't progress as fast. And it's getting out there. And if you're like me, I'm nobody believes this now, but I'm more of an introvert than people think I am because of my job. They think, oh, he's not an introvert. But I had to develop my people skills and break down my shyness when I was a freshman in high school. I don't know what happened then, but I just decided I wanted to accomplish anything I wanted to accomplish, but go out and get it and not wait for it to come. And so I think that entrepreneurs are naturally special because I think it's the hardest job in the world. You're starting a business. You're paying bills. You're hiring employees. You're having to do taxes, and it seems like it's never ending. And so I admire you and everyone that's a member of our chamber, and that's why we respect them and the staff respects them, because we know that you're working very hard to grow the economy. And like I said earlier at an event today here in Orlando, this is the best economy in the world, and the best thing that's ever happened to the economy are Latinos and Latinas. We are the future of this economy based on our average age, based on the growth that we're seeing, and based on the level of entrepreneurship. Latinas start 6 times the number of businesses other women start. So you're part of that tremendous momentum.
Yeah. And when I heard you this morning, saying all this statistics and numbers about, the Latino-owned businesses and, the impact that we're making here in the U.S., I think that's something that we still need to, educate our community about, right? I think not everybody sees that, and we are a powerful force here in this country in every way. So
we are powerful, and I don't know who did the study, but I have a tremendous friend of mine. Her name is Claudia Romo Edelman. You probably know of her, and she's someone that I admire. And her message is clearly, own your power. And 70% of Latinos and Latinas do not know, based on surveys, how powerful they are.
Yes.
And so if you can own who you are and believe in yourself, because in some places nobody will believe in us, right? Or expect great things of us. But if you own your own power, which is her message, and it's also using data, you got to keep delivering that message, because in many ways, Latinos and Latinas, in spite of the data, in spite of our economic power and success, our numbers, we're still being ignored in this country, and that's unacceptable. And so for me, it's something that motivates me every day, is to, in my role at the U.S. Hispanic Chamber, is to support people, give them the confidence they need, give them las herramientas, the tools that they need to be successful. And that's our job, is to empower people. And my dad had a saying, no queremos que nos den, queremos que nos pongan donde hay.
Exactly.
We don't want anybody to give us anything.
Exactly.
We're the last ones to ask for help.
Yeah.
But just put us where everybody's at. We'll compete, and then we'll succeed. And I believe that we need to have that stronger iman, or self-esteem as a community, and I think it would translate to success for others, because it's unstoppable.
It is. It is. And Ramiro, now that you're talking about that and you mentioned Claudia Ramos's work, I think it's incredible. And she's going to be a guest also here.
Good.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
I've been following, all the wonderful things that she's doing with Hispanic Star and We Are Human. So it's incredible. And we need, I heard one day that, Hispanics are not attending events if they don't see other Latinos like being on panels and things like that. But I feel like we need to take part on those events where they are in Hispanics because we need to be there and make the change from within. We need to be seen, right? So what do you think? And my team and I were thinking about this is, are we... the Latinos are unrecognized or unrepresented or both? What do you think about that?
That's a great question. So a couple of things. One, we need to show up to be counted. A lot of Latinos and Latinas don't show up. Yeah, we need to show up, and part of that is self-esteem. It's confidence. Even if you're the only one, who cares? Yeah. Nobody's like keeping track of how many Latinos are in a room except for us. Yes. But we got to show up and be counted. And then if we show up, somebody will say, "Allí estaba Ramiro, allí estaba Ana Carolina." And the next time they'll show up. And, we're human beings and we want to be with people, right, that we can connect with. And sometimes we just need to be courageous and bold that way and show up. And I think 70% of success is just showing up. Yes. And that's important. So, and two, the question you asked about, whether we're invisible or not. I think part of that is people, not everybody, it's changing for the better. But the thing about Latinos and Latinas that's unique is that we're Afro-Latino, we're Asian Latino, we're LGBTQ, we're Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyed, and then we're Dominicanos and people from Brazil, and we're beautiful, dark complexion, and then there's also a lot of Native American blood in us. If we checked our DNA, we'd be all kinds of different. But the thing that binds us is our culture, our cultura. And there was a gentleman years ago named, I think he's still with us. His name is Joaquin Blaya. And he was the president of Telemundo and Univision separate times. But he came up with this great saying, being Latino is a state of mind. Yes. And so I think it's that we're not as easily pegged and pegged, and we're not easy to define. We're who we want to be, and we're multicultural. Yes. And we speak different languages, and we're just so diverse. I believe we're not a monolith. We're so diverse that I think it's hard for some people who have limited education in what our community is about. Si no saben quiénes somos, no saben. But what a beautiful, diverse culture that comes from over 30 different countries to this country to achieve the American dream, el sueño americano. And so it's easy to kind of figure, well, he doesn't look Hispanic. Yeah. Well, what does a Hispanic look like? Exactly. If you put 10 people in a room, they'd all look different. And I think that's what's unique about us, is that we're uniquely different and we're special. And it's about our ethnicity and our culture. It's not about race. We're not a race. We're all of the races. We just happen to connect to this wonderful culture of being Latino or Latina. And I think it's confusion more than anything else. Part of it is ignorance, sadly. It's people that don't want to learn and know who we are and what makes us tick. And they're the ones that sometimes may make comments or statements that are, insulting or ignorant. Like, somebody saying, "Where are you from?" Yeah. We don't go around people where they're from if they're Americanos that are not Hispanic, right?
Yeah.
We don't go, where are you from? And it turns out that some of us have been here, came last night, and some of us have been here for more than 300 years. It's just that was la conquista de los españoles del Nuevo Mundo. I mean, de ahí venimos todos.
Yes. And now that you mentioned that, before we started recording, you were telling me about your heritage and, your story, right? And we want to get to know Ramiro also, that the person. So, Ramiro, tell us about, your story.
Well, I'll try to be quick. I'm a seventh generation Texan. My great grandfather was Capitan Juan Antonio Cavazos, and he came from Spain, from north of Madrid, in a small town called Santa Maria La Nieva. Y vinieron al Nuevo Mundo right after 1492, when Christopher Columbus, they were doing Spanish land grants, becas to poblar el Nuevo Mundo, and South Texas, which at that time was not even the U.S., and it was probably Mexico. The Spanish came, and they, of course, over the years, France had part of it, and even the South was at one time, and Texas was its own country at one time. So that's why the phrase Six Flags came up. But for me, even though we've been here for over 300 years, I still think like an immigrant. We still speak Spanish. I was born in a small town of McAllen. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My parents raised us to be proud of who we are, and not to think we're better than anybody, but definitely not to think we're less than anyone. And so La Frontera, where I grew up, it was 95% Latino, and most of them were Mexico-Americanos. So when somebody says, ¿Qué eres, Ramiro? Soy mexicano, even though tenemos más de 300 años de estar aquí, pero it helps identify my community. I don't say I'm from Spain, because that was like, more than 500 years ago. But I can trace back our family. We have our family tree. And so family was a big part for us. I'm married, I have a wife and 2 beautiful boys who are in high school, and, everything that I do, I do for them. And so this work, while it's a job, it's a passion of mine. So it's hard. I travel. I live in San Antonio, Texas, but my office is in Washington. D.C., and for a year and a half, I commuted. My wife has her own career, and we don't know anybody in Washington, but I agreed to move. But as it turned out, I was never there, because I was either in Orlando or Los Angeles or, wherever there's a Hispanic chamber or a small business person we can support. So to make a long story short, I'm very proud that the chamber, after a year and a half, said, okay, keep doing what you're doing. You're growing the chamber. You don't have to move. Live in San Antonio. And that was the board. But we have beautiful offices. We're headquartered there. But then 4 months after the board decided, the pandemic hit, and it just reaffirmed that you can do this work from anywhere, which was what I was already doing. I was just, doing my best. But I'd love to tell people that although I'm a Tejano, I feel the need for us to have a pathway to citizenship for our immigrant community. They create 10% of the jobs in this country, and that's a community that I feel we need to help and to represent. And I would just say that it's in my soul, regardless of whether I'm an immigrant. I feel the need to represent their issues. At the same time, I can be in a corporate boardroom with a CEO of any company and explain to them the data and the facts and the economic power, $3 trillion power that we bring and growing. Our average age is 28. We're not going anywhere. This economy is going to go through us, whether people accept it or not.
Yeah. And Ramiro, you were mentioning, that so you're from here, you were born here, but also when people ask you, you say, I'm from Mexico. Did you ever have like an identity crisis, or like I'm not I'm American, but also kind of my heart is Mexican. So did you ever feel like I'm not 100% American or 100%?
No, I think it was just because the way my parents, they raised us, they labels are maybe overused in our society. Yeah. And I think that's what's holding us back. Like, I don't think there's anything different from you and I, even though you moved here from Venezuela, right? And I've been in Texas and for multiple generations. I think that we have more in common. And so why should we even say I'm this or I'm that? And I think it's labels that non-Latinos have to give us to maybe peg us in some way, or to, kind of establish order in their life, for whatever reason. Yeah. And I like the fact that we can be whatever we want to be. Yeah. So no, I don't. No, I mean, and it's, it's just, even if I'm out on the golf course and I'm playing with two folks I just met who are teamed up with me and someone, and we all introduce ourselves, and if they're both, as we say, gringos, one says, hi, I'm David, the other one says, hi, I'm Tim, what's your name? And we're introducing ourselves because we're going to play 18 holes, right? and the person I'm with says, I'm Rick, and then I put out my hand, I go, hi, I'm Ramiro, and it's happened before where the person goes, where are you from? And because I rolled my R's instead of, hi, I'm Ramiro, and nothing wrong with that. No. My 17-year-old sometimes says that, but I tell him I'm from here, but I don't like have a chip on my shoulder. I'm just like, I'm from here, So I think it's never like crossed my mind. Yeah. I think it's beautiful that we can be multiple people.
Yeah, and I for example, in my case, when I came here, it was I still maintain my roots, right, from Venezuela, the food, the music, and many things. My family is still over there, and you bring that with you. But also, once you're here, you learn also from this amazing culture, so many things, and that you right. kind of implement in your life, right, and celebrate some holidays. And as an immigrant, at the beginning can be difficult, and it depends on right. the situation, why you came to this country. But also, I think it's a beautiful mix. When I was I used to visit my cousins in Venezuela, and they will tell me, oh, you're the gringa. Right? when I'm here.
See, they gave you a label.
I'm the Latina here. Right? So it's funny. But how did you mentioned your mom and your parents, they play a huge part of you maintaining, the roots from, what did they do at home that help you?
Sure. Well, my mother was a bookkeeper. And she grew up in a small town on the Texas coast. She was born in Palacios. Okay. They call it Palacios in Texas. And my grandparents were camaroneros. They were shrimpers. And we'd go visit them summers because Palacios was about 3 miles from where I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley in El Valle. My dad, so my mother... she's the one that spoke English to us because she grew up in a small town with more diversity, more Anglos, more people of color and other Latinos. But since it was further north, she was the one that taught us English. My dad, he spoke to us 100% in Spanish, the 6th generation Tejano. He was an elected official. Okay. He was a county commissioner. His dad, my dad's name was Ramiro. And he was also a farmer and a rancher. We had land, still have land from the original Spanish land grant from 300 years ago. Okay. So I grew up middle middle income, I think. I was lucky. Most of my classmates were farm workers or newly arrived in the country, and they would have to leave school early and come in late because they would have to travel north with their families to work the fields. And so I consider myself super blessed. So my parents, they taught me English and Spanish. They were entrepreneurs, my grandparents, so they were shrimpers on my mother's side. And on my dad's side, my grandmother, I didn't get to meet my grandfather because sadly he had a rancho in Monterrey. They used to be able to own land on both sides of the border and had dual citizenship. But he sadly was shot at his ranch because there were some cattle rustlers that showed up. So I never got to meet my abuelo Filiberto. But so since I didn't really get to know him, my dad would tell me these great stories of his just, courageous and bravery. But he was always he says, tu abuelo era muy organizado. Se levantaba en la mañana, se bañaba, se rasuraba y se peinaba y se iba al pueblo cada día, porque así era él. And so, they were both very disciplined about work and entrepreneurship. And so on my abuelo and my abuela's side, on my father's, they had a little grocery store called Cavazos Grocery in the small town of West Loco where I grew up. So that's why I say I'm really lucky and spoiled that I had that small business bug from both sides, family, learned both languages, and there was no option in my family other than you're going to go to college. And so I've just been fortunate. I consider myself lucky, and not just because of how they raised. And I was the oldest of 4 kids, so era el mayor. So I kind of had that added pressure to show an example of, getting good grades and working hard. I had a part-time job in college and in high school, and so I just thank you for that question. I had a very nice childhood thanks to my parents because they were good parents.
Yeah, no,
not everybody can say that.
It's true, and I sometimes we don't look back as much as we would like to, right? And remember where we come from, and when everything started, right?
Right.
So how did you decided, to embark on this journey as, the president of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I think I've been one of those people blessed that every time you go to a new job or a new opportunity, it's waiting for you. And so, I went to school in Austin at UT Austin, got a degree in government. I worked part-time for the first Latina state representative, Irma Rangel. I worked for a former U.S. Senator, Lloyd Benson. Mentioned my dad was an elected official, so they were from El Valle, from Sur Texas. And so I thought I wanted to be just like my dad and maybe run for office. And I just, after college, I decided to go to graduate school. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer, but that was his dream. They went to college, both of my parents, but they didn't get to finish because work obviously was important. But to make a long story short, I ended up getting a master's in public administration. I studied economics, political science, and business. And I was trained to be a city manager, to run a city. So my first job was being a city administrator of a small suburb of San Antonio called Elotes. And they call it Helotes there. But I learned a lot those 2 or 3 years in Elotes, running a city, getting the police schedules in place. I was 23 years old. And I finished my master's. And then I saw an ad in the paper, Ana Carolina, and it just said, Mexican Chamber of Commerce of San Antonio is looking for a new executive director, and it had like 4 bullets, like for like skills that they wanted. Budgeting experience. Well, I interned in the budget office for the city.
Okay.
Bilingual. I can do that. 3, fundraising. I thought, well, you know,
learn.
I could learn. And then the 4th was really just management supervisory skills. They were like very generic 4 bullets.
How old were you at that time?
20. At that time, I was 25.
Okay.
Because I had spent 2 years running the small city of Elotes. So at 25, I applied. I get this job as the CEO, the executive director of the Mexican Chamber of San Antonio. And it was the first Latino chamber founded in America in 1929, but it had no staff. So I was the first staffer after like 50-something years, because they were more of a social club. They weren't really about business. And so we changed the name, because not everybody was Mexican. We said, how are you going to get others to join? So we changed it to the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We went to the city. The mayor at the time was Henry Cisneros. And we said, you all are majority Hispanic, yet only 2% of the contracts are going to Latina and Latino businesses. He championed our cause. We passed a small business ordinance.
So you were one of the pioneers.
This was late 80s. Wow. So, you know, I was extremely young to be doing this work.
You kind of done like a full circle, right?
So I did a full circle. So I did that for 4 years, and I left to manage a campaign for someone who was running for mayor. I ran my own business for a couple of years. It was called Cavazos and Associates. It was public affairs consulting business. And I did that for about 4 years. And then I lost my biggest client, and I decided, a friend of mine said, hey, Levi Strauss is looking for a job for somebody to run Latin America and do government affairs and political and philanthropy contributions. So I applied. I got that job. So I was really in the private sector and the public sector after I was at Levi's for 6 years, traveling to Brazil, Dominican Republic, Mexico, all these great, wonderful communities that we were funding. The city of San Antonio said they were looking for an economic development director, because part of the grants I provided were economic grants and social justice. And we were the first ones funding AIDS education prevention. So I went to the city for about 7 years. So for 18 years, I had left the chamber, did all these other things. Then they called me and they said, would you come back to the chamber? And I said, I don't know. There's a saying in English, you can't go home again. Ever go home again. But they said, would you apply? And I applied. And so I went back to the chamber 18 years later, but had all this other experience. Yes. I was there for over 10 years. And then now when this job opened up, they recruited me, and I applied. And this September, it's 5 years. And right now we're thinking and talking to the board about renewing for another 5 years. But it's been a full circle.
Yes.
But I ended up back where I started from, in la Cámara de Comercio Mexicana de San Antonio.
Wow.
And so it's just, that's why I say I just kind of have gravitated to this work, even though I had left it before at a young age. But
so you said that when you started, you saw that job posting and you were like, I can do this, right? So, but beside that, what was your heart telling you? What was it about that job post, right? That you say, I'm going to apply, and because it was right, going back to your roots, because it was a...
Yes, I mean, I think I loved downtown San Antonio at the time. And when I interned for the budget office, when I was going to graduate school, we had this young, brilliant I called him an Aztec god, Henry Cisneros. He was literally in his 30s then. I mean, this is a long time ago, but he was the modern form of a mayor. He went to Harvard, got his MBA, MPA. I mean, he got a PhD in urban planning. You know, he wasn't making a lot of money. He was giving speeches. That's how he was getting paid. But he really set the bar high for all Latinos at that time. And I
paved the way for
he did pave the way for so many. He's an example of a mayor that really helped turn a city around. And our perspective was all about, you know, trade and other missions. So I went back also because I wanted to, and the La Cámara was downtown, and I had missed working in that urban downtown setting. I think that's the other reason I applied was that it was a chamber of commerce, but it was also going to take me back downtown where, and he was mayor for 8 years, so I got to work with him on small business issues after the time I started, and I learned a lot from him. He was very generous with people and his time.
And Ramiro, I recently saw that you were at the White House, right, representing our Hispanic business community there. You know, what are the topics that, you know, are out there that the White House is talking about, addressing regarding the Hispanics?
Well, I was there to accept a grant, a $3 million grant from the Minority Business Development Agency. It's our second grant. I've never, thank you. I never wanted to get funding from the U.S. government. I thought that it would maybe weaken our ability to raise money from Fortune 500 companies. But what I've learned is all money is the same. All money is good. Yeah. And if we can have more money from a government that believes in helping minority-owned businesses succeed, I can't say no to that. And so we are working with our chamber network from around the country as our partners. This is the third time we do that. We also had an SBA grant from Isabela Guzman for 2 years to do more access to capital, more counseling, more capacity building. It's called the Navigator Program. We're very proud of that. At the same time, you know, we've quintupled the funding of the chamber. When I got there 5 years ago, it was barely at $2 million. Yeah. And this is a national organization that had lost its way. And so we rebuilt it now. We're at over 12 million. You know, our staff is not grown much. It was 13 when I got there. It's 15 right now. But really the White House, this administration, the first thing they did, and we received funding from both the previous administration and this one. So we're bipartisan. I love to tell people we're not red or blue. We're red, white, and blue, but our favorite color is green. And I think that we need to represent our members who are from different backgrounds. But ultimately, they need to show us the money and to prove to us that they care. Exactly. So the reason I was there is because we've been asked to help with providing businesses such as yours more access to capital. And we have a program for capital. We have a program to build capacity and called Avanzar. And then to build capital is this new program. And then the third is connections. We do a lot of matchmaking to help people get contracts. So that's what people like you want. You want more business. That's what our members tell us. Queremos más negocio. And so we call it the 3 C's, capital, connections, and capacity building. And that's where we spend our time building programs to help our 5 million Latina and Latino-owned businesses, which you're a part of, grow. And that's why I was honored to be at the White House. There were 1,200 applicants for that grant, and we were one of 43. And I was honored that the White House had asked me to speak as a representative of one of the 43 and do the welcome remarks at a program where Undersecretary Don Cravens spoke from MBDA, and then the Deputy Secretary of Commerce, Don Graves, spoke. And last but not least, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, the first woman of color, obviously, to be a vice president. So The last thing I want to say, this administration passed an executive order, or approved an executive order asking every department, the Department of Defense, Department of Education, all the cabinet level people, to achieve 15% minority business contracting. Historically, Latinos and Latinas have only achieved 1.7%. So if we can get to that 15%, it'll be more business for firms. And the largest buying service in the world is the U.S. government. It's a multi-trillion-dollar organization, and they buy all kinds of goods and products. And many of them will be here in Orlando at our matchmaking. Secretary of the Navy will be there, and other departments, to do business with our Latino-owned businesses. So that's really why I was there, is to be in the center of the action, so they know that we're watching them and that they need to do a better job. Those numbers are getting better than 1.7%. It's going to take a while to get to 15%, but that's where we want to go, because we're 20% of the population already. Ooh. So, and those contracts shouldn't just go to the Boeings of the world. They need to come to companies such as yours too.
No, and I want to comment because, first I think they're seeing, the growth, right? We're opening more business every day. There is a huge need for programs such as the ones that you are providing at the USHCC. And, I've been part of those programs, like the Blue Wave program that you guys did. Then also, I'm now on the pilot program that you guys are doing with the consulting. And it's helping us, learn, because sometimes is that, there is a gap, education gap. We don't know what's out there, and we need that information. And I think if you guys, are doing such an amazing job with getting those funds to, to cover those programs and provide those to the Hispanic business community. And I want to comment on something because there might be maybe a misperception, because you guys are the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that is only for corporate businesses that want to reach the Hispanic market, or is located in Washington, based in Washington, so only businesses in Washington. But it's not like that. I remember knocking on their door, virtually, of course, and like learning and asking questions about, what are the membership benefits, and if, I'm based in Orlando, can I join the USHCC? And also going to these events and learning about the opportunities, like matchmaking. For me, last year was my first matchmaking opportunity, and I was able to meet with different corporations. And then I went to DC and learn about also the opportunities to do business with the federal government and all the steps that I needed to take in order to achieve those contracts. And actually, the ones that were sitting on that table for me, and this was more at the Legislative Summit. I remember that there were like 15 agencies there waiting to meet with Hispanic-owned businesses, and unfortunately, there weren't too many
Latino-owned businesses, right?
And I was like, wow, I was able to meet with everybody because,
and guess what? It's free.
It is free.
It's free, and that gets back to what we were saying earlier. You got to show up to be counted. You're not going to get a contract by staying at home or staying in your office. You've got to go out there and meet the buyers directly. They need to develop a relationship with you, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference, and so I'm glad you went through the Blue Wave program. Congratulations again. You were one of, I think, 25 graduates of our initial pilot project. And I was honored to be there when you received your certificate in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But that program, as you know, it's run by two Latinos and Latinas. They're entrepreneurs themselves. They have great experience and passion for how to do supplier diversity if you're a Fortune 100 firm. And we want to transfer those skills to you and the other people in Blue Wave, because that's how you learn how to get those contracts. Because somebody's got to teach you how to do that and do it right. so you don't have to like knock your head against the wall by yourself. We want to break down those barriers. And so we invested in the Blue Wave program. It's going to continue as one of our
exciting.
capacity building programs. But in addition to capital, in addition to capacity building and contracts, you know, that's really a big achievement on your part, because now those other 20 something businesses, we encourage businesses to do business with one another also. And so you build your tribe, your ecosystem. And for us, those relationships and that family of businesses that you can relate to, because it's a very small percent. Only 3% of people out of 100, only 3 out of 100 people in the U.S. are business owners. It's a very small percentage. But the good news is Latinos, we're a third of a percentage higher than Anglo, Asian, African American, and other groups, because we're naturally entrepreneurial. But that shows how courageous you are, is that you're very narrow, crust of the 100 average people in the U.S. that put their name on the line, risk everything to be an entrepreneur. And I admire you for that, because, you know, you're out there creating jobs, making a living, you know, renting spaces, traveling, helping mentor people, and to provide services for your clients. And so it's not easy to do.
No, it's not easy, and it takes a village. I was sharing, you know, an event that we had here with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Metro Orlando. You know, I was sharing my story of how I started, and it has been thankful. You know, I think I'm being lucky and blessed to have had the opportunity to count on the support of my community here in Orlando, my family, friends, you know, everybody has been able to, you know, be part of this amazing story that we are building. And now that we mentioned the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in Orlando, and also that you're here in Orlando, I want to talk about, you know, very briefly about the conference and that is going to be taking place here in Orlando, I think during Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes.
So,
Well, we're excited. It's the first time we come to Orlando in 44 years. It's a big achievement. Orlando, through Gabi Ortigoni and you and the whole community, the Visit Orlando, the elected, they put the best proposal together to say, come to Orlando. And it was great competition from major cities, but you all earned it. And we're here to really kick off that in a month, September 24th through the 26th, we will be here again. But we're going to bring more than 2,000, maybe 3,000 people from all those 300 Latino chambers and many of those small businesses that form 5 million.
It's kind of like
Latino
the largest.
It's the largest gathering of Latino business in the country, probably in the world, and then over 200 corporations, and they all are here to do business with one another. The small businesses want to do business with corporate Fortune 500 firms. You know, the chambers, they have members who they're trying to support. So we have tremendous workshops. We have 2 days of matchmaking for contracts. We have networking opportunities. We have an expo also for people, and we have a chamber track for staff that are chamber folks who want to learn how to be better at that. And then it's just in general a great place to rub shoulders and to meet people that maybe, you know, we read about, but you'll get to see them in person. And we attract CEOs of major corporations that come to our event. And I'm excited that we'll be back in Orlando. I know that it was a big decision for us to come here because we felt that the local chamber that Gabi runs is a shining example of a large chamber that does a great job supporting Latino businesses. And we want that to be the example for other chambers. So it's a 3-day conference. It goes by quick. and some of us don't. We sleep fast. I sleep fast when I'm at these conferences because a lot of late nights and early mornings, but it's worth it for me. You know, it's exciting to also after the conference to show the results, the successes, hopefully the contracts that companies gather, the relationships with administrators from the government, with people like you who you want to have that one-on-one relationship with Isabela Guzman and make sure that they know who you are and what you do, and to highlight your business. And then hopefully you can meet new people you never met before, develop relationship with folks you never thought you would. Yeah. And that's what we're here to, for 3 days, to have people meet people that they wouldn't ordinarily get to meet but for the conference, and to develop a relationship with them to help their businesses grow.
Yeah, and I think if you're a business owner, like, you know, come ready, be intentional, you know, with every step that you're going to take, and also, you know, register beforehand for that matchmaking session. Yes. They are incredible. I learned so much last year, and now this year we're coming more, you know, prepared. Good. And I think that's, you know,
every year you get better.
Exactly. Yeah. So you know, the Orlando community is excited about, you know, hosting this incredible conference. And I know that, you know, of course, Orlando is more than the theme parks. And I know that you guys are going to be able to experience that as well. Not only, you know, sometimes we're all about Mickey, and Mickey's here. Yes, this is the land where dreams come true. Yes. But also Orlando has evolved.
It's a very diverse economy. Yes. And I'll say that I love Mickey Mouse. I've met Mickey Mouse, and it was a magical moment for me and my family. Yes. And I thought even as an adult that I would be jaded and would not get super excited. But he's real.
He's real.
And but to your point, that's just a small slice of Orlando.
Yes, it is.
It's a beautiful slice. But if that's the way to get people here and maybe, you know, do business with you or that cybersecurity company or that fintech company or that culinary institute, or, you know, folks in the biosciences, I know that Orlando has a full, diverse economy of targeted industries besides tourism.
Yes.
And that's why we're here. It's because we know that Orlando is a big city now. It's a big economy, and it knows what it's doing. And it's really your political leadership, your business leadership, and the folks leading the different organizations and entrepreneurs like you have really put Orlando on the map. And that's why we're coming in 6 weeks, because we want to be here and show Orlando to the rest of the world.
Thank you. No, we're excited. And Ramiro, we're almost getting to the end, but before we end this amazing conversation that we're having, there are some questions that I ask. You know, the people that come here. So you just answer the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. So what's Ramiro's favorite food?
Oh, my favorite food. I think my favorite food is fideo.
Fideo?
Fideo or paella.
Paella. Oh,
those two.
Rico. Sí. Do you like seafood?
I love seafood. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So we have to.
So I would say paella.
Take you to a good paella place.
Yes, please.
So, what's your, you know, place that you would like to? I know you travel a lot, but that one place that maybe you would like to visit again, or that you would like to go here in the U.S. for pleasure?
Great questions. I mean, you know, I love Firenze in Italy. I love Toledo in Spain. Kyoto in Japan, San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. In the U.S., you know, I there's just something about San Francisco that really connects to me. The Monterey Bay area, so beautiful. In Texas, of course, I live in Texas, and you know, there's beautiful beaches there. We were just on vacation a week ago at a place called Port Aransas. So I see the beauty in everything, and so those are my favorite places in the world. I love going to Washington, D.C., not just because my office is there, but it's a city that shows so well. And, you know, I just, you know, have so many favorite places. I haven't been to as many places as I'd like to go to, but I've been just fortunate to have traveled more than most folks. And I just think that those are the cities that are my favorites.
Okay. And what's your favorite sport?
My favorite sport is, it's still football.
Football.
I you know, was not physically gifted, but I played football at the same time I was in the band. And so, but I did that for about 3 years, and I realized that my strengths were on the musical side more, but yeah, football, American football is still, but soccer now, football is coming in because that's my son's favorite sport. They're both, my youngest, he's going to do a Real Madrid camp in November in Spain, and I'm going to go with him.
That's incredible.
So we're
I'm
excited.
A Barcelona fan, but you know,
well, that's my oldest. See, they're a house divided. El Chiquito, he's 14. He loves Real Madrid. The oldest, he's a Barcelona fan. He's a big Messi fan too.
What's your favorite, now that we're talking about music, your favorite type of music?
God, I love all kinds of music. I love jazz, because I played saxophone. I love samba music from Brazil. I love disco music. You know, I love Frank Sinatra. You know, I love Tony Bennett. I just love Diana Krall. I mean, Mana. You know, I love all kinds of music. I wish I had one kind, but even country, some country is not, you know, a lot of folks don't like country, but I think all music is good. But I'm more of a jazz aficionado, enthusiast, and so yeah, that's.
So, and my last question is, you know, we're looking to continue sharing stories here at Hablamos Spanglish. To continue inspiring our community, and also promoting what the Hispanic population is doing here in the U.S. and the positive impact that we're making.
Thank you for doing this podcast.
Of course, it's, you know, for me, if you know, when I was thinking about doing a podcast, you know, everybody does a podcast that is related to their business, if you're a business owner. So I was like, I don't want to talk about marketing. I spend too much time talking about marketing, but my passion is to inspire people. So, and I want to continue doing it, but not only by sharing my story, but is showcasing stories like yours, right? So who will you nominate to be sitting here? Oh,
that's a great question. You know, our cherry-elect Jackie Puente would be amazing. She's, you know, como dicen los she's a firecracker. She's wicked smart, very passionate about Latino business issues, and she's just so generous with her time and funny at the same time. I just think that would be like, our cherry-elect would be the one. And I'll, in fact, after I'll send her a note and connect you, because I think she would be. She couldn't come because she is, I think, 7 months pregnant.
Oh wow!
So she couldn't come to the kickoff. She's trying to come to the conference, but she'll be, you know, 8 months, I think, then, or close to delivering her baby. But I think we need to get her here on this beautiful yellow sofa.
Honored. Yes.
And but there are many others, but she would be at the top of my list for you.
Thank you, Ramiro. I appreciate you. This was an incredible conversation, and I hope this is just the first one of many times that we can do.
What an honor. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, for listening to Ramiro's stories, and stay tuned for next episodes.